Hello and welcome to AmassGames. Today I'm bringing you games 90 through to 81 of what I think are the top 250 board games of all time, having played over 1650. This does include expansions and promos because sometimes I think they're better than playing other games. Well, without further ado, we're on to another ticket to ride. This one is France, the Old West. The fantastic SPIEL.digital nominated designer Brett J. Gilbert introduced me to this game, and yes, it's a game I've really enjoyed. It's a game whereby you are placing out routes, but first and foremost you need to start thinking whether or not you want to get parts of those routes first. So I have played both France and Old West. I played both sides of the boards. I definitely prefer the France side of the board, and I'll go and show you a little bit of actually how this looks. So as you can see, it's classic map. Obviously it's France, but again, you're choosing to place out certain parts of this board before you can use it. So if I give you an example, let's just go and say a picture like this, if it's of any use. You're laying out this track here. These pieces here, obviously this represents the Old West. What you're looking to do is actually decide which part of those routes you really want to be playing with first. So it's a very highly rated edition. I know lots of people think it's their favourite. I think lots of people probably stick in their top three. So as you can see, it's a blank map and you're choosing where you want to basically be going out from. It happens to be a place that France I've visited about 25 times, and I have taken some trains in France, not as much as other countries, and this is the kind of area of France that I kind of originated from 1,000 years ago and stuff like that. So this has been Ticket to Ride France, a highly interesting, different edition, which has a bit more strategy and a bit more almost luck is to hope that you get the place you want to go for. Back to Power Grid, we talked about an expansion already. This looks fantastic. Someone's made a little thing here. So Funkenschlager, as I mentioned, all his games, Freedom and Freeze, name beginning with F, starts with the letter F in that language. And Farbe, or colour in German, for some reason he's got green. He loves the colour green, and his hair dyes green as well. Ooh, I need to look at his Recharge edition. So in this particular game, you are placing out routes, you're creating power, you're using various things. This is the Carcassonne map. And what you're looking to do is decide, based on what it is that you're going out with, how useful that will be to whether or not your route will be powered and be effective. So obviously there's lots of the different images. It's a 38th highest ranked game of all time, and for the particular year it is the highest one of all time as well. So I'm going to show you a map now just to show an example, and this is basically how it looks. So as you see, it does have a board. It is a board game, and you're going to be placing out and bidding for these various different types of power station. They could be solar power, which are green. They could have fossil fuels, which might involve junk in some interests. It could be oil, it could be coal, and each time it could be cheaper to go for oil and coal, because if you go for these obviously green options, then you need to pay a higher cost to initially get it built. So typically, as per usual, as currently this is the case, it is a bit more expensive. So it's thematically done very, very well, and mechanically it's a very sound and impressive game. So you're going to be going out, and each location you get to, it's going to cost you different amounts of energy. Going further and further out costs you more. As you start sharing some of these grids, then if you're the second person there, it's typically going to cost you 5 bits of energy more. Game continues until eventually you're going to have a winning score. That's typically done when you've built out 7 locations. So that is the game Power Grid. Very impressive, and this is very interesting to see that too. I highly recommend it. Lots and lots of fun, and as I've seen in other maps, as I've showed you that, it's one thing to check out. Porta Nigra. So this is a European game designed by the best combo of designers of all time, Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer. They've done, I think, at least 4 games together. I think they did the Mask trilogy, so that's Dekalb, Java and Mexica. I still haven't played Dekalb. I had it on my hands and I didn't get a chance to play it, which I believe won Game of the Year. This is probably the highest and best game that they've done together. There's a great geek list. They've done 10 plus games together, and in this particular one I really like it. It involves area movement, area majority. Let me show you what this map looks like. A tricky game to get hold of. So there's this kind of little map, and you're bidding to say, well, I don't want to go here, don't want to go there. Various different things that you can combo off and play, and yes, it's very good, it's very nice. Let's just see how many ratings it has. Obviously, yeah, not really massively up there, but it's a very nice game, and some people are still playing it. Let's see if the people who are playing it this month are of all time. It's a game I recommend you check out. It's a very interesting game. I feel there's a 20-point and a 30-point swing. This is the guy I played it with, Paul. He played it 15 times. Fantastic. So this is the chap who introduced me to the game. So that's really cool, and he's been on this year. Hello very much, Paul, if you're watching. And he hasn't played it this month. Legends of Andor is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players, although I do have the expansions to play more, although to be honest I think it's best 2 to 4. I'm happy with any player count. Never tried it solo. I think there's a nice bit of discussion, and otherwise you're alpha gaming it yourself. It does involve dice. It's the only game that I believe Michael Menzel has made when he's a fantastic designer as an artist as well though. I mean, he has done some of the best artwork of all time in games such as Stone Age and other games such as Dominion and things like that. Beautiful artist, looks fantastic in his games. Probably potentially the best art he's ever done is in this game, and I'll definitely be putting links in obviously to watch my videos on this. I've got the follow-up big box expansion and numerous other expansions and promos. There's so much gameplay in there, and even though there's only 5 base missions, of which the first 2 are just introductions, there's a lot of variation that I'm going through, playing all the different ones for that too. So yeah, it was nominated for SPIEL.digital, and it actually won Kenner Spiel. And in this interest, I'll point out that I did play it first in German. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Took a couple of years before Cosmos got it over to Fantasy Flight. Now Cosmos owned the UK or the English language edition again. There was some errata which I've corrected, which is absolutely fine. And basically you are representing a classic Tolkien style of warriors and mages and wizards and classic tropes. So basically going out and dealing with various threats, and as you're going out from this tower defense kind of game, dealing with quests and making sure you do not get overrun. So the way that the boss or bosses fight back is very impressive. My videos have been well watched. This is my particular, actually no, that's not my one. There's my one there. As you can see, it's compared to everyone else's, it's done pretty well. If you go to hot, obviously Tom Vassar, of course, he brought his out much before mine. But if we scroll down, I think you will find mine not too far off the bottom. But yeah, it's a game that I really enjoy, and I do talk about the other ones too. So there it is, and people do like the depth of detail I gave into. As you know, this is a relatively young channel. It's under 2 years of age, and that's because it took me 4+ years to think, you know, there are so many people already doing this. Is this going to be of interest to people? So if I just go quickly to some of these pictures, just show all these maps. I mean, this is the back side of the map, which is only used in 1 base mission. So it looks very, very impressive, very, very nice. And yeah, it's gorgeous to look at. It's something that really does, you know, arrest and stop people. And there's the front side of this map too. So yeah, it looks wondrous. It's really cool. And then the second expansion basically goes off to the sea to the north. And there's some lovely little characters people have created. So up next we have a battling game, a purely 2-player game by some of the best designers out there as well, this time from France. Antoine Balzer and Bruno Cathala. I've met Bruno Cathala over Cold, I mentioned that before. And in this particular game, it's a reimplementation of 7 Wonders, which is what Antoine Balzer did. And in this particular game, you're dealing with various cards. You're going to have some cards which are face down and dealing with that effect, and looking to go out and either win ultimately purely on military, or maybe based on the sciences, or maybe based on other conditions with victory points. So various things to be aware of, various tableaus you want to try and fulfill. This kind of engine building game, dealing with some of your cards and resources to get the best thing you can possible, quicker than your opponent. So very nice game, and that's the Wonders Jewel. Arboretum, this is a crunchy game. Beautiful to look at. Renegade did a great job of kind of redoing it. It is really crunchy. It's one of those games I've talked about before whereby the kind of mechanism in this, like other games I've talked about, is you're playing out cards, but what you play out you can't then score. So you're trying to hold something back and keep an eye on that. So for that reason, it's really crunchy to think what you should be going for. I'm not particularly good at this game, and you're going to. So some games I'll talk what I think I'm good at, but I'll be very honest and say what I'm not good at. But it still kind of appeals to me. So you could be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you wouldn't score an 8. Now, that might not be a great example of how to show you that one, but it's a very interesting way on how you're trying to get various things. And yeah, the trees look lovely. Yeah, it's an abstract strategy game, very interesting. And I think this designer, let's look into this guy. Yeah, so it did obviously win UK Games Expo Best Award there, and I think it did really kind of take off. It's done very well, and some places out there have done a great job. So this is this designer, very nicely done. Let's see how often this chap pops up. He is on frequently, and he's American. Cool. So next up we have an expansion for Diceforge Rebellion. Didn't mind Diceforge whatsoever. The first time I played it, so we played it incorrectly. We've said that when everyone rolls a die, everyone else has to do the same. So it was really close scoring. I really liked it. This first expansion though has 2 different modules that can be added to the game, and I really like the variety that it brings. The new boards, the faces, the sanctuary box. I just like the different challenges it provided, and I felt it was necessary to kind of complete that game for me. Next up, Dinosaur Island. I've talked about this before, and this time I'm saying that you don't have to play the expansion. As much as I highly rate the expansion and the Totally Liquid and the various other forms of Dinosaur Island, you just don't need it. It's still in my top 250, playing those other ones, and they're great, but just having the same Dino meeples is absolutely fine, and for that reason it still sticks in that top 100 as a great game that involves, this Euro game, dealing with resources, going up your tech trees, and looking to improve. So yeah, same designers obviously are those other Dinosaur Island things. I'll be playing Dinosaur World later this year in 2021. And Jonathan Gilmour, Brian Lewis did AmassGames. You'll see that in some of their boards. It might well come up here. So yes, there's Gilmour, obviously for Gilcorp. I've played all 4 of the boards. You can play short, medium, and long. I've played all 3 in a day, back to back. And yes, it's choosing where you want to advance. So it's a worker placement game, modular as well, where you're choosing to say, well, do I want to increase the tech in a certain type of dino? Do I want to then obviously be like breeding them out and improving my theme park-like ability? And lots of these names will look very familiar. So t-shirts like T-Rex. Obviously you have hats, you have Gigantosaurus. Some funny names here which aren't really, Rex, Mex, very, very funny names. Sometimes you'll see things very much like Jurassic Park, but written differently. The Grill Burger, things like that. Up next, we have Pandemic, and Pandemic Iberia is one of the highest rated versions of Pandemic, like it's in top 100, so people really do like it. And the best thing about stating this one is the abilities you have. It's very interesting to say, it's a bit like the Ticket to Ride France I talked about a moment ago, and that's because you can build out train routes, so you can choose to actually place out something and then follow along it. And I think a little bit of that, it might be in Pandemic Legacy Season 2, sort of, just what you read in the back of the box. And I like the fact that you can choose where you want to be just addressing stuff. I think it just works really well and obviously clicks a lot with other people. I don't know if that's why it chimes with them. Be very curious to know that and let me know. Again, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the notification for all the other videos I'm doing. I've got 50 plus lined up. As well as please chuck something in the comments and I'll reply as soon as possible. And check out, of course, the description. So K2. K2 again is, I've never won on this game either, and I put want to play because I'm keen to play it again. You can play it online. Board Game Arena is not good for phones. I think even you still need a monitor, to be honest, to play it well. I think I'll just have to then play it again on there. But for the time being, this is a game that I've really enjoyed. Very thematic. You're going up a mountain. There's less oxygen, so you can't travel as much. There's simultaneous action sequence going on. There's managing your cards, trying to get to the top of these summits, placing out your tent, getting there first, and racing compared to others. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a really nice game, and it's a shame that not that many people have it. Well, they do have it, as we might find out, but finding people to have it is another matter who are playing it. So thanks very much for watching. That's another top 10, and next 10 is coming very soon. All the best. Thank you very much. Bye for now.